Yeah, it's Thursday. What happens on this channel on Thursdays, I'm hoping every week, is I'll be talking about AEW's Dynamite. Now, I watched the second episode today. I watched it this morning while I was jogging on that bad boy and finding out I've lost exactly 30 pounds so far on my bid for. I'm aiming for 50 overall, so I'm about 20 pounds above where I want to be. So, pretty happy about the weight loss. But I had a chance to watch again. I say this, and I say this while looking for something that I could poke a hole in. So last week I said AEW's issue is the women's division. Well, this week they patched that up. They did. The women's tag match they had was actually pretty good. And next week they're going to have Britt Baker against Riho for the title. I feel like this is probably going to further the storyline between Britt Baker and B Priestley. B is more rougher on the edges, at least from what I've seen so far when it comes to the wrestling side of things. But you know what? I like the feud. I like what they're doing. I liked Riho in there. And just, yeah, it was fun this week. And then I know that there's apparently been, and I'm going based off of what I've read and heard elsewhere, Jericho's group that he has formed may feel kind of NWO-ish. I don't see it as an NWO type group. I see it as a heel faction in wrestling. It's basically, it reminds me kind of the Horsemen. So you'd have Jericho to be playing the role of Flair, right? You have the former LAX, who are your Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, your enforcers. And then your Barry Windham, your Lex Luger, to me, is Jake Hager. And then there's Sammy Guevara going, hey, I'm here. I saw one comment last week about, Guevara should lose the panda head thing that he was wearing to the ring. Done. He's a heel. It's done. It wasn't there when he came out this week. And honestly, I don't have a complaint about this show. I don't. The closest I can get is the fade to black from Orange Cassidy to Shawn Spears on the ramp. That was, well, I guess on stage at the top of the ramp. That was weird, but that's as close as I can get. That's really it. And when as a fan of wrestling, I can't really find anything that I look at and go, well, that's stupid or that doesn't make any sense. That's saying something. MJF coming down at the end after the main event to make the save for Cody was fun. The lights going out for Cody was weird. You're going to have the lights go out and come back up. Should probably be for somebody we haven't seen in AEW before, not Cody. And the fans were chanting for Cody. They knew Cody should come out and make the save for his brother and Hangman Page. And of course with Hangman Page, the one thing I'm wondering, and this is something I'll ask wrestling fans watching this, I don't feel like Hangman Page connects as well with the audience as one might expect. And he's got the look and the talent and all of that, but I'm not sure that he's the guy. I think MJF could be the guy. Now, MJF's natural environment is as a heel, but so's Cody. That's the only thing that's weird about this is that the Elite and the Inner Circle, they both feel like heel factions, don't they? Feels like it's bad guys versus bad guys, and they're making it so that Cody and Dustin and all of them, they're seen as the good guys in this, and of course Jericho and his baddies are the bad guys. But it feels like their natural environment is as the heels. And so it's a strange dynamic between them. And I'm not sure that Page is going to be the guy. Now here's the interesting thing. You've got a group of the Inner Circle, and you've got Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager, and you've got Jim Ross calling the action. Now, Jim Ross was a lot better this week than last week. He's getting to know names. He almost said Jack Swagger, though. How long is it before Sammy Guevara is tagging with Jake Hager, and he says Sammy Hager? I'm waiting for it. It's going to happen. He's going to say Sammy Hagar, and the crowd's going to, or at least people watching will go nuts, and if anybody in the crowd gets wind of that, yeah, it's going to happen. And now everybody's going to want to see a tag team, the Sammy Hagar tag team, and there you go. I think that having the former Jack Swagger come out and not talk for 2 weeks? Good. Having him as the bodyguard for Chris Jericho? Perfect. Some of the best big men in wrestling have started out in that role on TV. Whether it was Big Bubba Rogers, I remember that from WCW days, it sort of feels like that. Diesel, when he came out, of course, as the guy who was the bodyguard for Shawn Michaels, it feels a lot like that. And of course, later on, Sid Vicious, Sid Justice, Psycho Sid, whatever name you want to have him using, he came out as well for Shawn Michaels, same thing. And it was that same dynamic. So, and you can name off others as well, but really AEW feels like a throwback. It does. And people mention WCW, but I don't know that it reminds me of the WCW of the late 90s. WCW was really overproduced, and eventually the NWO was just everybody was NWO, and it became ridiculous. I don't see Jericho's group as being like the NWO at all, because this isn't Jericho coming in to destroy the company. This isn't the inner circle trying to destroy the company. It's, we don't like Cody, we don't like, the people who run this place, and we're going to run it. And that's been done in wrestling many, many times. Really. The most recent example I can think of is Nexus. When Nexus came in and they were going to be the guys running the place. And then, of course, they all lost to John Cena. It was 8-on-1, and they all lost to John Cena, and it was stupid. And to this day, it's one of the tremendous moments where WWE could have put these guys over and made them look like a monster heel faction. And now we'll just job them all out to Cena. So, like they were the new Spirit Squad or something. And I have to say, every AEW match this week felt great. I also would give kudos to Private Party. Love those guys. Private Party's fantastic. Their match with the Young Bucks was great. And before the match even started, I'm like, okay, so Private Party has to win this. They have to get the win. Because the Young Bucks, as guys who are kind of in charge, and I don't know exactly who's booking what right now, but I would imagine the Young Bucks have some say in that. They're not going to put themselves over. They don't need the tag team title belts. The crowd already goes crazy for them as it is. The title belts will go to somebody else. And I love that. And they put Private Party over very well. I was really enthused. I didn't know who was going to win that match. And so I was pleasantly surprised. I like Private Party. I think they're great. I also like SoCal Uncensored. The Best Friends are hilarious. So let's hope that next week we see another really good match in this tag team title tournament. And, that's really the key. They said they were going to make tag team wrestling look important. They've done exactly that. The former LAX, they're still, kind of biding their time, waiting for their big opportunity. You have the Lucha Brothers as well. Like, there's a lot of good wrestlers on this roster. And one thing that I know people may have a hard time with, and Sammy Guevara, I think, weighs 180. I know Darby Allin is 172 pounds, and he's up against Chris Jericho next week. And there may be some that look at that and go, well, you can't take these guys seriously who are lighter than the other guys. And the bigger guys should be your champions. And these guys in AEW, they're too small. I could see that being a criticism. Wrestling, honestly, the size difference, you can have some of the greatest matches between guys who are bigger and guys who are smaller. When you're sticking guys in the ring who are all the same size, you limit the moves, you limit the surprises, you limit what you can do. And WWE has really started doing that again, where it feels like if you're smaller, you're probably going to get manhandled and you're probably going to lose. And I understand that with WWE trying to get the UFC audience, which is what they're doing with Cain Velasquez, now they've got Tyson Fury in there. Like, they're trying to get that audience in. So obviously the bigger guys are going to be your contenders, and which makes it harder to take Seth Rollins seriously, but that's a whole other thing. I think the size difference in wrestling, it's not a big deal. You look at Ric Flair in his heyday. Ric Flair, best wrestler in the world, wasn't the biggest guy. Bret the Hitman Hart, not the biggest guy either. And Shawn Michaels, definitely not the biggest guy. And the reason that they ended up going to Shawn Michaels when they did, and people may not know this now, all these years later, Michaels was hot enough to get over, despite being smaller and despite being one half of the Rockers, formerly the Midnight Rockers, which sounded way better than the Rockers. Midnight Rockers was a great name. But I guess they didn't want to be too close to Midnight Express, so I get it. But they were going through the whole steroid lawsuit and the steroid issues. So wrestlers that were bigger, the more muscular guys, they were shying away from. And a lot of the guys who they were building around and had built around in the past had already gone to WCW. So the smaller guys who was clear weren't juicing, which Michaels and Hart would be two main guys, they got the main event push and the title was put on, alternating between Michaels and Hart. And honestly, it was great. And then, of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin comes in there. You get The Rock in there after that. These guys, like The Rock was bigger. And, of course, he's pretty jacked now. I'm not going to argue that he's not. But wrestling just felt different at this point. So when a Rey Mysterio comes in from WCW, he gets a shot at being the champ. He doesn't just get a shot at being the Cruiserweight champ and flying around with Juventud Guerrera and other small cruiserweights. What's happened with WWE now is it feels like the cruiserweights are stuck in their own class, and there's no real chance to move up and move out of it. Now, coming back to AEW and what I've already seen in the 2 weeks, there's no cruiserweight class to be seen. These guys are just all on the same level. When Darby Allin comes down that ramp on a skateboard, leaps off the skateboard, and nails Chris Jericho, that was absolutely a fantastic moment. I never thought I'd see the day that I said, holy crap, about a guy riding a skateboard down the ramp and kicking somebody. But here we are. It was different. It was something I'd never seen before. And right away, it gets me more invested in Darby Allin than I had been at the start of the episode. When they said at the start, they said, okay, Darby Allin's going to be fighting Jimmy Havoc, and the winner gets a shot at Jericho next week. I'm like, why? What the hell for? That's stupid. By the end of the show, they'd proven me wrong and shut me up about it. And in the middle of it, they have Pac come out and commentate during the match between Shawn Spears and Jon Moxley. And straight up say, I have a great record. Why am I not getting a shot at the title? It's intermixing everybody, and it's difficult. At the start of the show, you're introducing so many characters. So your first and second show, you're introducing everybody. They've done a very good job of getting Pac over as being a bastard. That's his handle on Twitter, Pac Bastard. And Moxley, is he a heel? Is he a face? He wants a fight with Kenny Omega. Clearly from the way that he reacted when Omega gets knocked down by Pac, and he's like, no, I'm not going to beat him up with a baseball bat. Could totally do it right now, but I'm not going to do it because that would be unfair. It means that Omega can have a huge fight with Moxley, and neither one has to necessarily be a heel. Love it. About bloody time. And they had said AEW was going to do away with this heel and face thing and play with the shades of gray a bit, which comes back to the main, wrestling feud, which is the Elite versus the Inner Circle. Coming out of this feud, you could see both factions kind of warring with each other and warring with other wrestlers and just toying with that gray area. And what it does as a viewer is it means that we can't necessarily plot out, okay, so you're going to fight this guy and then it's going to go there. This is clearly the way they're going. It gets a little more difficult. We saw a lot of different ways it could have gone this week. And honestly, I was really, really surprised and pleasantly surprised by everything I saw. And I'm looking forward to next week. This is kind of how wrestling works. And coming back to the wrestling side of things, rumors that Vince was told that there was that WWE shows were too pro wrestling. And what that would mean is it doesn't feel like a sport. So WWE is trying to make it feel more like it's a sport and less like pro wrestling. And AEW seems to be embracing, this is pro wrestling, this is who we are, and we love it. So it will be two completely different products. Even though it's competing again against NXT, I get the feeling NXT is eventually going to be pushed slowly towards that sports entertainment thing just because it's on USA Network, and I think that's where it's going to end up. I've always kind of had the feeling with Vince McMahon that he runs a wrestling organization, but he's always envious of other entities and other sports. I think that's why the XFL's been tried twice. That's why he tried having a bodybuilding federation as well. I think he's always envied other sports and other entities and seen, well, I make this money doing this, but I'd really love to be doing that too. I don't think that while Vince understands that his money comes from professional wrestling, I think he ideally would like to move the needle in another direction. I think that's why it's called World Wrestling Entertainment. And I have a funny feeling that as Fox's money rolls in and Saudi money rolls in, we're going to see more and more entertainment and more weird, wacky storylines and returns of legends from years gone by. And AEW is just going to keep putting out wrestling shows. And I really think it's going to be one product is for one audience and one product is for another. So this whole talk of a war, I don't think it applies anymore because I don't think we're in the same place. I don't think wrestling's in the same place it was 20 years ago, and I don't anticipate a huge war between the two. Because again, for me, AEW, I'm done for the week. I don't need to watch other wrestling. They do have AEW Dark that's on YouTube, kind of a fun show, that's fine. But you don't have to watch it in order to know what's going on when you're watching Dynamite. You're not going to have guys coming in from another roster and something else, and they go, oh, we had to watch Dark to know what's going on here. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about, drafts and all this stuff. And the number of wrestlers that you have in AEW is still manageable. I know who everybody is. So, and I know that already. So they've done a very good job introducing people and getting these feuds started and really mingling the storylines very, very nicely. I'm impressed. And I'd be interested to know if you, as wrestling fans, are impressed as well. Again, it's totally different audience, totally different product. And I can see myself right now, if I had to choose, if you said, all right, Shannon, there's an AEW show that's going to be in Vancouver and a WWE show the same night, which show are you going to? I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to AEW. And that's how I feel right now. So let me know how you guys feel in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, I get the feeling this could be a fun weekly thing to do. But again, let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.